is the chief of police in the city of Martinsburg, Erin Gibbons. Good morning, Chief. How are you?
Good morning. The not 6'7", but also not don't hit my head on the kitchen table either. So.
Yeah, how tall are you tipping in?
6'2".
6'2" is good. Yeah, Mr. Miller, what are you?
About 5'10".
So I'm right in the middle of the chair needs to be a little bit lower, a little bit higher. Mic needs to be higher. Something like that.
No good sweet spot there.
No sweet spot.
Yeah. Well, the good news is I fit in all cars. 5'8". I remember watching,
including the trunk.
Yeah, that's a Sicilian joke, I think.
I think it is.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I remember watching Emergency 911 Squad, whatever that thing was. The show used to be on in the 70s.
Absolutely.
And they had the one call they had. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was stuck in a VW Bug. You remember the old Beatles?
Oh my gosh.
He was all wedged in. He couldn't get out. That was
a great show. John Gage, Roy DeSoto.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Yes. Randolph Mantooth was one of those stars. Yes.
How did they get him in that car?
Yeah, he may have to gone in through the sunroof and then come out. I don't know. Anyway, Chief, I know you guys have been busy in the city. A lot of calls. A lot of. Although I think it's calmed down over the last couple of days or so. What's been keeping you busiest?
So, what's been keeping us busy? A few weeks ago, we had a Orbeez. You probably heard about it. It's the Orbeez incident, or the airsoft pistol or rifle incident. We had a bunch of juveniles. We didn't know at the time it was a bunch of juveniles running around shooting up, damaging property, and they'd drive by and shoot kids in the parks, or they'd run through and shoot kids in the parks and on the streets and stuff like this. So once we realized that it was juveniles and they go to some of the schools in the area, I sent a text out to Dr. Sachs and off to Ron Branch as well, and I said, hey, if I do a release real quick, would you put it out to the schools? And they said, absolutely. So I did a release. They put it out to the schools, and sure enough, the incidents, knock on wood, stopped. Mm-hmm. As of now, they've stopped. So I think that, putting that responsibility on the parents and getting the teachers to educate the kids a little bit. Once you see a release come out like this, and it's a text on your cell phone, and you're watching your kid walk out the door with an Orbeez gun, hold on, those clues start happening. So, so that got handled fairly well. In the past month or so, we did get DNA results back on Derek McCain. He was located. So
if you could refresh everybody on that story.
So Derek McCain went missing back in 2020. The family reached out to us. We had done numerous searches since 2021, just since I've been chief. We had done at least 4 or 5 searches. Any little tip that we got, we'd run a search. We'd call canines in, cadaver dogs, article search dogs, and we'd get volunteers to run searches, different locations, and any little tip that we would get. I got a letter in mid-April. I got a letter back from the crime lab, and in bold red letters, it says, CODIS info hit. So anytime you get a letter back from, and that's a good sign, anytime you see something coming back from that index system, the DNA index system, and it's a positive hit, that's a good sign. Just so happens that it was a case that was worked back in 2016 where I was actually working on that case, and I had actually done a buccal swab on Derek McCain. That was in 2016. Well, the DNA from that case came back to remains that were found in 2020. So in 2020, his remains were actually found, but since then, I didn't even know that remains had been found in another agency. But that DNA from the remains was sent down to the lab. They did a process, and in the meantime, we're still out there searching. Family has no closure. They're worried about where he is. And then come April, we were able to actually Berkeley County made notification. So,
how far away? I mean, was it, in state?
It wasn't far. It was in Berkeley County.
Are there ongoing investigations with that still?
I believe through Berkeley County, yes.
Through Berkeley County, okay.
As far as I know, I mean, I don't have that report. God bless them, the family. I'm glad they have some closure now. I'd hate to say that it's, I won't say it's exciting news. It's very heartfelt because I knew Derek from back in the day, even if I've had many instances where I'd come across him, just say, hey, what's going on, man? How you been? unfortunately, it turned out the way it did, and prayers for the family, and God bless them for sticking through with us, calling them up every time we get a tip or something. Hey, we're going to run into the search. We're going to run into the search. So.
You mentioned another agency, so there was apparently a discovery of the body
of remains.
Of remains.
So that's probably why in 2020, when those remains were found, they want confirmation that the DNA, that there's some sort of DNA match somewhere. So they're not going to call out.
Right.
If the remains are in a certain condition and there's no positive ID, then you have to wait on those DNA results. So.
And that took some time, obviously.
It obviously took some time.
Wow. Okay.
A question from our audience, which is any resolving of the situation at the Tough Man competition with the officers who were taken away there?
So the Tough Man competition, I will say that, I mean, I won't go into too much detail because it's still an investigation, but I will say that our agency handled it professionally. As we would with any other incident, we're going to stay fair and impartial across the board. Unfortunately, it involved a couple deputies, and our officers, when they responded and they spoke to the witnesses and got some statements, they handled it as they would any other call. And that's how it needs to be.
Was the fight deputies and a third party, or was it just among the deputies?
Deputies and third party.
Deputies and third party, very good. And that's still being investigated, you said?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I know you can't comment further if it's an ongoing investigation. David Anderson has a question. Will the bicycle patrols be coming back?
So actually, that's really good coming up with this summer, and it's starting to get busy downtown again. I love bike patrol. I have always spoke highly of the bike patrol. I love being on bike patrol. You get out there on a bike and you can hear for blocks. It feels like you can hear for a mile. It's a little bit more of a personal touch. We did send some more to a bike class. You actually have to go through a bike class. I think we sent 3 or 4 more to bike class. And especially with them doing this survey and mapping for this POTA project, we're going to need more downtown presence. So bike patrol is perfect for that.
That's how I met Glenn Mocker.
Really?
It
wasn't in handcuffs on the hood of your car?
No, Glenn grew up about a block or two from where I grew up. He's older, so I didn't know him growing up in Pittsburgh. I met him here, obviously, but this is the way I met him. So I'm hosting a talk show across town at the time in the 90s. But before I get on the air, I go over to the Sheets across the street there, and I fill up. And while I'm there, here comes Glenn on a bike across the parking lot, and he hits a piece of, a little strip of gasoline, I guess, grease, and he goes down. And I mean, he was, hitting pretty hard there. I was astonished, right? Because it didn't happen too far from me. And before anybody could really react, he kind of popped back up and pedaled away. So when I got on the air, I told the story. I didn't know Glenn at the time. So I said, yeah, one of those bicycle cops from the city of Martinsburg came by when I was filling up at the Sheets. He hit a strip of gasoline and went down, and I yelled out, "Hey, watch the car!" I was making a little bit of a joke out of him. I get done with my shift, and Yogi Yoda, the general manager, knocks on the door and goes, "Hey, somebody wants to meet you. There's somebody waiting for you out here." I open up the door. There's Glenn standing in the hallway.
Glenn was a character. He's actually the one that took us out, and a big group of us out and trained us on the bikes initially, and then you have to go through more, but. I remember him. Same thing. I remember him taking a big spill. We had to jump this curb down on Foxcroft Avenue, and everybody was jumping the curb, and he hit that front tire on the curb, bent his wheel right in half, and went down. He goes. Mm-hmm. Couple little chuckles. Hey, you can't sleep there.
Well, that's how I got to meet Glenn.
Yeah,
that little off.
Now I have been in a couple incidents on my own bike, but that's.
Who amongst us is not?
That's right.
But he used to do, and many members of the force used to do that police ride for the fallen officers and the Fallen Officers Memorial. Do you guys participate in that anymore?
We haven't participated in that in, I think, 2 or 3 years. Once we get the bike patrol back up and running, we still have about 3 or 4 of us that still actively get on the bikes, and now we're adding more to it. So more than likely, maybe this summer we'll take a look at it, if not the next.
All right, let's talk about the camera projects around the city.
So the camera projects, last year we put up And it's something I wanted to do for quite a while because it really helps out a lot. We put up 8 cameras downtown. We have 4 in the square area around King and Queen. We have 4 more around King and Winchester Avenue, around the 7-Eleven area. We have recently just proposed 12 more cameras for the downtown area. Now, one is going to go at King and Foxcroft. That's a huge traffic issue out there at King and Foxcroft. Another one's going at Queen and Martin. So that'll be 4 cameras at each of those locations. And the next one was going to go at King and Porter in that area. However, I can't get power to that area. And with all these incidents happening around the Tuskegee, around the park area, we're going to move those from Porter over to the Tuskegee area. And so that'll be 4 more cameras.
They tie into the nearby light.
Yeah, the power has to be city power. That's the issue I had over on Porter and King, was I couldn't get power to the actual cameras.
What's been happening at the park at Tuskegee?
Well, the Orbeez incidents, that a lot of that happened.
A lot happened right there. Okay.
In that area, and then here a few weeks ago, we had a shooting late at night. It wasn't at the park; it was up the street a little bit, but it was a shooting where somebody shot at a car.
Oh, geez.
And it was.
I'll tell you one thing.
Probably is affiliated with drugs.
One thing that I'm finding that's kind of sad in our city. I'm 56, and I used to, with my first wife, we lived across the street from the park. At the corner of Burke and what is Tuskegee now. It was, I can't remember what it was then. But the basketball court used to be full. There used to be kids out there playing constantly. And now you drive by basketball courts and you just don't see the kids out there. It's these darn phones and video games. They're not getting out. They're not getting the exercise. They're not, I don't know, it's just sad to see empty courts.
Yeah. Well, maybe they have the LeBron 2-point K on their phone.
Chief, in regards to the cameras, what can you do with those cameras and what can't you do with them?
So I can go back. I can look at these cameras. We've solved several crimes just simply by going back and looking through this camera footage. We can keep an eye on key areas if we get a mass group of subjects or any incidents or people that we're actually looking for. Each one of these stations, and I call them stations because each station has 4 cameras and they point different directions. They actually include the LPRs, so they're actually the license plate readers. So I can actually move the LPRs from one camera to another. And it works fairly well. I can kind of, every once in a while I get a good read on the license plate, but it's a local database. It's not a national database. It's just starting off, so.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to ask about is that something that you have an officer looking at kind of regularly, or no? That's just if there's an incident, you can go back and check those things out.
If there's an incident, if there's something going on, if I want to look at what's going on downtown, if we get a destruction of property or some tagging or something like that, I can go back and look at the video evidence. If we get somebody that's on the run and we have a vehicle description, I can key in a vehicle description and it'll look for that car. So yeah, I mean it's extremely helpful. But even when we have these downtown events, St. Patty's Day and Food Truck Festival, it'll prove helpful when we have somebody walk around they're not acting right. So.
Well, I guess and just having the cameras should serve as a pretty good deterrent downtown.
Are they obvious where they are?
Not so obvious. I mean, you can see them on the poles, but it's more evidentiary. Like people still commit crimes and they go into 7-Eleven or McDonald's and they know there's cameras everywhere.
Not crimes at the 7-Eleven on Winchester Avenue, I hope.
I wasn't picking on anybody. That's why I brought up McDonald's too. No, plus now they have that music too. So.
I love the music. That was such a great idea.
Neither one of them advertises here, so you can offend them all you want. I'm okay.
Well, no, the music is great. The opera that they play outside of the 7-Eleven.
To keep non-opera fans away?
Yes.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of...
Now, they did install a speaker system downtown, and we did get a couple calls this weekend on our stereo system. I mean, thank goodness they weren't playing Metallica or something like that at 2 o'clock in the morning. We did get some calls on it, but hopefully they resolved that issue. In
regards to the cameras, Chief, how are they paid for?
The first 2 were through the opioid funding from the state. And then these most recent 3, I believe, are direct funding. So these are actually requests that I made.
And how much storage time do you have on the camera?
I have right now. It seems to be indefinite. I can go back a couple months. to look at video footage, which is great. It's all cloud-based. It's not a local server. But if we ever do run into any issues to where, adding 12 more cameras here in the next few months, it does cause an issue with storage. We'll reevaluate how long we need to keep the actual storage.
And in regards to what the cameras allow you to do, you can't issue a citation for someone who runs a red light at an intersection. But if there's an accident, you can look at
evidentiary. Absolutely. Now you would think that us having cameras up at King and Foxcroft, I probably shouldn't tell everybody this, that we could just sit there and run those stops. But Foxcroft and King is extremely hard to set up on. I would go up there in my patrol vehicle and I'd get set up to run traffic on that stoplight. That's extremely difficult. The best place you could sit is right up against those buildings on Foxcroft, and by the time somebody runs the light, you have to get turned, cut through traffic, get through the light, and then get on that. So it's a lot harder than you think it is in that spot because everything's so obvious.
You mentioned some of the funding coming through opioid money. Where are we right now in the city as far as drugs and drug use and sales and so forth? Are we seeing a dent beginning to be made in all of that?
And I mean, to be fair, I think that I'm not going to say that fentanyl has gone down, but I will say that I've seen a lot more meth and crack come back. But there's so many mixes, and between boot and pink cocaine and all this other stuff that's out floating around. And I think that that's why the state pushed so hard to change this. The quantifying factor for amounts are changing through House bill was at 196. Senate bill came through. What it does, it actually changes. If you get an ounce of, and it's suspected fentanyl, normally it would have a cutting agent in it. You'd have to get it sent off to find out how much fentanyl, and then they get charged for how much fentanyl is in that cutting agent. Now they're changing, legislature's changing to where you actually get charged for the total amount. So we're not going to dig through and figure out how much of that's fentanyl. You're getting charged for the entire ounce, and per weight, that's what you get. That's what you get charged with.
Boot and pink cocaine. I've never heard those
There's
phrases.
Molly, boot, pink cocaine. Pink cocaine was fairly new. I just heard that from one of the DEA agents here just a few weeks ago. I'd never heard of it either. I don't know if it's a mix of something with meth. I couldn't tell you what.
No,
it was just strange to hear that name, pink cocaine.
Yeah, that's they're always coming up with something new to harm people.
Right, and I think a big part of that, that Lauren Act when it came out was something was laced with actual fentanyl when back in 2020 up in Morgantown when the girl died, the 26-year-old girl died. So they pushed it through legislature, and that plays a part in the quantifying that weight.
Take us back. When you talked about Derek McCain and in that search and so forth, you mentioned calling in cadaver dogs and so forth. I know you have dogs on the force, right? Still have the K-9 unit. That's more of drugs and so forth. How does all that work? In other words, where do they come from? What interagencies are there in police force when you have a case like that to be able to call in those resources?
So we have called out for, let's just say, for example, you need a bomb dog. We can call the state police, see if they have a bomb dog, Frederick County. We can have a bomb dog there in about 20, 30 minutes. Normally, they can get there pretty quick. We'll call the ATF. They've got dogs, and they have a lot of resources. So having the actual numbers on speed dial is extremely helpful. We have people with cadaver dogs, Kim Sensidiver, and then we have another agency we just spoke to here 2 weeks ago where they're offering up their services for doing searches. They have cadaver dogs as well, plus larger amounts of sources for us to do searches. So I can call the task force. We get drones up in the air. But yes, our dogs specifically focus on drugs and or article. We don't have anything that's really other than that right now. But if you want something like a bomb dog or a drug or a cadaver dog or more of a focused, like a grid, if you're running a grid search for something like we had done for Derek McCain so many times, you call in these as many people as you can, and before you know it, you have 100 people standing there ready
And
to work.
you get those calls as well for drug calls, right? So do your dogs go out other places other than through the city of Martinsburg? State police
Yeah,
need
if
you?
the state
Right,
police is on a
that's-
traffic stop and they need a dog, we'll run out there on the interstate somewhere. Or if county needs one, they don't have one working. And the same with us. It's the same if we don't have a female working, we need a pat down. We call county, hey, do you have any females available? We work hand in hand all the time. So.
Right.
Chief Erin Gibbons has been our guest here on the program. We got about a minute left, Chief, and that minute is yours. Anything you want to make sure the community is aware of right now?
Well, I do know that, school's letting out here soon. Most of my kids, I know my youngest is graduating. Keep an eye on those kids. You don't want them out running rampant out here in the summertime. And I don't expect them not to be able to go out and have fun. Just be a little responsible with your kids. I don't think that there's any ill intent, with us being on patrols out here in the neighborhoods and out downtown. It's merely for getting out and getting a good. It's more personable with us being on foot. So if you see our officers out downtown walking around, come up to them, say hi. You're going to see more of them. We're in a really good spot right now. We've hired 29 people in the last year and a half, which is amazing. Now we only have about 19 of those left, but through attrition and we had to some things go on. But so our max capacity is 50. We're at 49 right now. We have some good prospects. We keep testing, but we're in a good spot to where we can actually get out downtown, walk around in neighborhoods, drive around. So if you see our officers out walking around, stop, say hi to them, bring your kids up to them. Don't be nervous about it.
Very nice. Chief, thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
Stay safe.